18,000 years ago, your ancestors slept through a winter that would kill you in 4 hours. No electricity, no insulation, no central heating, just a circular hut built from mammoth bones, a fire, and animal skins. Outside, the temperature dropped to 20 below zero. Winds tore across open steppe with nothing to stop them. They lay down, they closed their eyes, and when morning came, they were still alive. The question is not whether they survived. You already know they did. You are here because they refused to die. The question is how. Because what they did sounds physically impossible. The first thing you need to understand is that caves were not the answer. Most Ice Age humans never lived in caves. Caves were rare, already occupied by bears and lions, and often located far from food sources and water. Your ancestors built their own shelters. Around 400,000 years ago, a species called Homo heidelbergensis built wooden huts on a beach in what is now France. The largest measured 30 feet long. By 18,000 years ago, at the absolute coldest point of the last ice age, your ancestors had turned shelter construction into an engineering discipline. They dug pit houses halfway into the earth. The ground itself became insulation. They built frameworks from mammoth bones or wooden poles. They covered them with thick sod or layered animal hides. They draped massive skins over rock shelter openings to block wind. They built tent-like structures inside larger shelters, creating dead airspace between layers. And they positioned every hearth with precision, understanding that smoke ventilation mattered as much as heat. At a site called Mezhyrich in central Ukraine, archaeologists uncovered something that should not exist. A circular shelter, 12 to 14 feet across. Its walls were stacked mammoth limb bones, interlocked like massive Lincoln logs. Its roof was flat mammoth skull bones covered in reindeer hide. Inside, a hearth. Wei Chu of Leiden University led a study published in 2024 that radiocarbon-dated small animal bones buried in and around the shelter. His team proved the structure was occupied between 18,248 and 17,764 years ago, during the last glacial maximum. Average global temperature sat 4 degrees Celsius colder than today. Ice sheets buried half of Europe. The shelter may have been revisited across 4 centuries, but each stay was short, episodic, desperate. This was not a home. This was a lifeboat made of bones. But a shelter is just a box. Without heat, your ancestors would have frozen inside it within hours. So here is the second piece. The fire inside that shelter was not a weak flame barely clinging to existence. It was a precisely controlled inferno burning at temperatures exceeding 600 degrees Celsius. You know this because of a site called Korman 9 in Ukraine. Researchers from the University of Vienna and the University of Algarve excavated 3 hearths dating to the last glacial maximum. Their findings, published in the journal Geoarchaeology in 2025, revealed something stunning. Ice Age humans burned spruce wood. They maintained fires comparable to modern campfires. William Murphy, the geoarchaeologist who led the study, noted that fire evidence from the height of the Ice Age had been almost entirely missing from the archaeological record. The hearths at Korman 9 proved your ancestors did not lose fire mastery during the coldest millennia. They kept it burning, all night, every night, for generations. But fire and shelter were not enough. Your body loses heat faster through wet clothing than through bare skin. A single layer of damp fur in sub-zero temperatures will kill you. Your ancestors understood this in a way that most modern humans do not. They invented a tool that changed everything. The eyed needle, carved from ivory or bone, a tiny hole bored through one end by a fine flint drill. If you saw one today, you would recognize it instantly. Invented around 30,000 years ago, anthropologist Brian Fagan called it the most important invention in human history. Not fire, not the wheel, not agriculture, the needle. Because the needle allowed tight-fitting, tailored, multi-layered clothing. Before the needle, humans draped loose hides over their bodies. Heat escaped through every gap. After it, they wore 3 to 4 layers of precisely fitted garments. Each layer trapped still air. Each layer served a specific thermal function. They slept in these clothes. They lived in them. They removed them only when wet, because damp fur steals body heat faster than naked skin exposed to freezing air. Reindeer fur was the key. Each hair is hollow. Your body heats the air column inside, and the fur holds it close. The same fur repels water. Snow that landed on a sleeping person melted and ran off instead of soaking through to skin. At Kammern-Grubgraben in Austria, archaeologists found piles of reindeer bones stacked beside dozens of eyed needles. The evidence is unambiguous. These animals were hunted for their winter pelts and immediately transformed into survival suits. Your ancestors slept in 4 layers of reindeer fur, beside a 600-degree fire, inside a shelter built from the bones of the largest land mammal that has ever walked the earth. And that is not even the strangest part. Some researchers now believe your ancestors may have possessed a biological survival mechanism that sounds like science fiction. At a site in northern Spain called Cima de los Huesos, the Pit of Bones, archaeologists uncovered fossilized human remains showing seasonal damage patterns identical to those found in hibernating cave bears. Lesions in the bone, stress markers, growth interruptions. The same patterns that appear when an animal slows its metabolism and sleeps for months. In 2020, researchers published findings in the journal L'Anthropologie, arguing that early hominins may have entered a state similar to hibernation during the harshest winters. Their bodies slowed, their metabolism dropped, they slept through the coldest months and woke when temperatures rose. Chris Stringer of the Natural History Museum in London pushed back hard. Large mammals like bears cannot truly hibernate, he explained. Their body mass prevents the core temperature drop required for true hibernation. Instead, they enter torpor, a lighter sleep. Metabolism slows but does not stop. Humans, with bodies far larger than hedgehogs or bats, would face the same constraint. The debate remains unresolved. No one knows for certain. But whether your ancestors hibernated, entered torpor, or simply endured the cold night after night through sheer metabolic grit, the truth remains the same. Their bodies were not passive. Their biology fought back against the freezing dark. You exist because 18,000 years ago, a small group of humans refused to accept what the physics of the situation demanded. They built walls from bones. They kept fire alive through endless nights. They stitched survival into every seam of their clothing. They lay down in a shelter that should not have worked. And they woke up,